The wind didn't just howl across the ice shelf, it screamed. Staff Sergeant Marcus Tully had been stationed at Alert, Canadian Forces Station Alert, for 73 days when it happened. 73 days of polar night. 73 days without seeing the sun. The most isolated, permanently inhabited place on Earth, 500 miles from the North Pole, where the thermometer hadn't risen above -30 in 2 months. And where, on February 14, 1997, the sun wasn't supposed to rise for another 11 days, but it did. Alert exists because someone has to be there, signals intelligence. Monitoring Soviet transmissions during the Cold War, now Russian chatter and whatever else drifts through the electromagnetic spectrum at the top of the world. 12 men rotated through 6-month tours. No families, no civilians. Just prefabricated modules half buried in snow, linked by rope lines so you don't wander off into the dark and die. Tully had done this before, 2 previous tours. He knew the routine, knew the isolation, knew what the mind does when it's starved of sunlight for months, but he also knew the difference between cabin fever and something real. The first anomaly happened during the 1900 hours radio check. Corporal Davies was on comms, routine stuff, weather data uplink, equipment status. Then his voice came over the internal speakers, confused. "Sergeant, I'm getting interference on the primary array. Not jamming, it's structured." Tully pulled on his parka and walked the rope line to the communications module. The cold hit like a physical blow even in that 30-second transit. Inside, Davies had pulled up the spectrograph. Patterns, repeating patterns across multiple frequencies. Not Russian, not Chinese, not anything in the NATO codebook. "Could be atmospheric," Tully said, though he didn't believe it. The patterns were too regular, too deliberate. "Sir, that's not the weird part." Davies pointed to the window. The viewport was just a double-paned rectangle of reinforced glass, usually showing nothing but black and maybe some stars when the weather cleared. But now there was light. Faint. Orange. On the horizon. Tully checked his watch. 1912 hours. Local solar noon wasn't until late February. He pulled the astronomical tables. No sun, not for 11 more days. "Equipment malfunction?" Davies shook his head. "I can see it with my naked eye, Sergeant." They stood there, watching. The glow intensified. Not like dawn, faster. And then, just as suddenly, it faded. 8 minutes, that's how long it lasted. When Tully radioed the other modules, 3 other men confirmed they'd seen it too. Nobody slept well that night. The Canadian Arctic is not a forgiving place. It's a landscape designed to kill you. The cold isn't the worst part, though 40 below will freeze exposed skin in under a minute. It's the isolation, the sensory deprivation. Human beings aren't wired for months of darkness. The Navy did studies. Polar deployments have the highest rates of psychological discharge in the military. Hallucinations are common, auditory mostly. Voices in the wind, footsteps on the ice, but visual hallucinations shared by multiple witnesses simultaneously. That's not in the literature. Tully filed the report anyway. Possible atmospheric phenomenon. Recommend instrument recalibration. He didn't mention that 4 separate men saw the same thing. Didn't mention the radio interference. You learn in the service what gets you reassigned to a psych eval and what doesn't. The second sunrise happened 48 hours later. This time it was during the day, or what passed for day. The Arctic doesn't do daylight in winter, just gradations of darkness. Nautical twilight from 1000 to 1400 if you're lucky. Tully was doing a perimeter check, making sure the fuel lines hadn't cracked in the cold, when he saw it. Due north, a luminous disk rising above the pressure ridges. Too large. Too bright. He stood there, wrench in hand, watching something that shouldn't exist. The sun, or something that looked exactly like it, climbing into a sky that should have been black. He ran. as much as you can run in 30 pounds of cold weather gear, burst into the main module. Everyone, outside, now! 6 men stumbled out. 6 men stared north. The light persisted for 12 minutes this time, bright enough to cast shadows. Tully watched his shadow stretch across the snow, sharp-edged and impossible. Then Private Chen pointed east. Sergeant? There was another one. Another sun, smaller, dimmer, but unmistakably there. 2 suns, in a sky that should have been empty. "Sir, what the hell are we looking at?" Chen's voice cracked. Tully didn't answer, couldn't answer, because as he watched, the eastern light began to move, not rising, not setting, moving laterally, tracking across the horizon at a speed no celestial body should match. Then the radios started screaming, not jamming, not interference, sound, modulated sound across every frequency, a droning pulse that made your teeth ache. Davies, still in the comm module, tried to filter it. Couldn't. It was everywhere. Shortwave, VHF, UHF, even the emergency band. Tully ordered everyone inside, sealed the hatches. The sound persisted. They could hear it through the walls. A rhythmic oscillation rising and falling, almost like breathing. "Sir, I'm reading electromagnetic fluctuations." Davies pointed to the meters. Normally they registered background cosmic radiation, solar wind activity. Now they were spiking, off the scale. Tully grabbed the satellite phone. Direct line to Canadian Forces Northern Area Headquarters in Yellowknife. He got through. Barely. Static swallowed half his words. Alert station reporting. Dual solar phenomenon. Unknown origin. Electromagnetic anomaly. Request immediate. The line died. They tried for an hour to re-establish contact. Nothing. Every system was compromised. Even the backup generators started cycling. Voltage fluctuations, power surges, the lights flickered, went out, came back on red. Emergency lighting. "We need to shut down non-essential systems," Tully ordered. "Preserve the core functions." But the systems were already shutting down on their own, one by one. Automated safeties triggering, like something was draining power directly from the grid. That's when they heard the knocking, not on the doors, on the roof. Methodical. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. The modules were rated for polar bear encounters. Reinforced steel. No animal could generate that kind of resonance. Tully grabbed his sidearm, realized how stupid that was. You don't survive the Arctic with a pistol. You survive by staying inside, by following protocol. But protocol doesn't cover this, doesn't cover dual suns and electromagnetic storms and something knocking on your roof in a place where nothing should be alive. Private First Class Morrison was the youngest. 22, first deployment. He'd been steady until now, but now his hands were shaking. "Sergeant, we need to get out of here." Tully grabbed his shoulder. "There's nowhere to go, Morrison. Nearest help is 800 miles south. We stay put. We wait for comms to restore. We do not panic." But even as he said it, he didn't believe it, because the knocking was moving, traversing the length of the module, slow, deliberate, like something was exploring, mapping. The lights went out again. This time, they didn't come back. In the darkness, the sound changed. No longer knocking, scraping, metal on metal. Something was testing the seams, finding the weak points. Tully clicked on his flashlight. 6 other beams snapped on, 7 circles of light in the black. "Davies, can you get the generators back online?" Davies was already moving, flashlight clamped in his teeth, hands working the manual restart panel. The scraping intensified, then stopped. Silence. The worst kind. The kind that means something is listening. The generator coughed, sputtered, caught. Lights flickered, returned. Tully swept his beam across the ceiling. Nothing. No marks. No evidence of whatever that was. He keyed the internal radio. "All stations, sound off." One by one, the other modules reported in. Everyone accounted for, everyone heard it. "Maintain lockdown," Tully ordered. "No one goes outside until sunrise." Then he caught himself. Sunrise. The real one. Still 10 days away. The rest of that night stretched like a wound. They took shifts. 3 men awake, 4 sleeping. Tully couldn't sleep, kept checking the windows. The darkness outside was absolute now. No false suns, no anomalous light, just the Arctic, vast and indifferent. At 0400, Davies picked up a transmission. Faint, fragmented, not their frequency, not any frequency they monitored. He routed it through the speakers. Static, then words, English, distorted. "Station alert. Receiving. Phenomenon confirmed. Maintain position. Do not repeat, do not..." The signal dissolved. Tully recorded it, played it back. Same message, looped, like someone had broadcast it and left it running. "Do not what?" Morrison whispered. Nobody answered. Because the answer was in the silence. Do not investigate. Do not engage. Do not tell anyone what you saw. When dawn finally broke, the real dawn, 11 days later, it felt wrong. Tully stood outside, watching the sun crest the horizon for the first time in months, and it looked diminished, smaller, colder, like it was apologizing for its imposters. The electromagnetic readings normalized, the radio interference ceased, contact with Yellowknife reestablished. They filed their reports, standard format. No mention of dual suns, no mention of the knocking. The official record showed equipment malfunctions, atmospheric anomalies, stress-related misperceptions. But the satellite imagery told a different story. Thermal scans from those 2 nights showed heat signatures above the camp. Not atmospheric, not auroral. Solid, localized, shaped like discs, 30 meters in diameter. The images were classified within 6 hours. Tully only saw them because a technician in Yellowknife owed him a favor, sent him a low-res copy before the files were sealed. He never showed the others. What would be the point? 3 months later, Tully's tour ended. He rotated back to Edmonton, debriefed by officers he'd never met. They asked specific questions. Had he experienced visual disturbances, auditory hallucinations, sleep deprivation symptoms? He answered carefully. Yes to the sleep deprivation, no to the rest. They seemed satisfied, cleared him for future Arctic deployments. He declined, requested reassignment, got it. Spent the next 8 years at bases where the sun behaved, where the only things knocking at night were recruits who forgot the door code. But Alert Station didn't forget. In 2003, a Norwegian science team doing atmospheric research up there reported similar phenomena. Dual light sources, electromagnetic interference. The Canadian military shut down their study, cited safety concerns. The Norwegians pushed back, got nowhere. In 2008, a Russian icebreaker crew navigating near Ellesmere Island logged a sighting. Luminous objects, multiple, moving in formation. The log was dismissed, attributed to ice blink, optical illusions caused by light reflecting off ice crystals. Tully knows better. Ice blink doesn't knock on your roof, doesn't drain power from hardened military systems, doesn't broadcast warnings across encrypted frequencies. In 2015, he attended a veterans reunion, met Corporal Davies. They didn't talk about Alert, not directly, but over drinks, Davies mentioned he'd done some digging, found a report from 1971. Another Alert Station incident, almost identical. Different crew, same phenomena. That report was also classified, buried in archives that technically don't exist. Do you think it was them? Davies asked. Them, meaning the Russians, meaning adversaries with advanced tech. Tully considered it, had considered it for years, but the math didn't work. You can't fake a sun. Can't project light bright enough to cast shadows from 800 miles away. And the way it moved, nothing human-made moves like that. Not then. Maybe not now. I think, Tully said, choosing his words, that there are things at the poles, things that don't like being disturbed. Davies nodded. Didn't ask what he meant. Didn't need to. The Arctic is different now. Climate change has opened shipping routes, mining operations, tourism. More people pushing into places that used to be empty. And the reports keep coming. Pilots seeing lights that track their aircraft. Researchers finding equipment drained of power overnight. Inuit elders saying the spirits are restless, that the ice is remembering. Alert Station is still there, still manned. The personnel rotate, the mission continues. But there's a new protocol now, unofficial, passed down verbally. If you see something you can't explain, log it as equipment failure. If you hear something that shouldn't exist, blame the wind. If the sun rises when it shouldn't, don't look directly at it. And if something knocks, don't answer, because the Arctic keeps its secrets, keeps them frozen in ice and buried under darkness. And maybe, just maybe, we're supposed to leave them there. Tully retired in 2016, lives in Nova Scotia now, far from the ice, far from the dark. But some nights, when the temperature drops and the wind picks up, he dreams about Alert. Dreams about standing in the snow, watching two suns rise over a frozen world. Dreams about the sound of scraping on metal. And he wakes up, checks the windows, and reminds himself that the sun only rises once. Only ever once. Unless you're watching from the place where the world ends. Unless you're standing at the edge of the map, where the rules change, where the darkness has teeth, where the sun sometimes decides to lie. The military still monitors Alert, still collects data, still sends men and women to sit in the dark for months at a time. And they still occasionally see things they can't explain, things they're ordered not to discuss, because some phenomena are too destabilizing to acknowledge. Some truths are too dangerous to speak. But the veterans know, the ones who've been there, who've stood watch in the longest night, they know that something lives at the top of the world, something old, something patient, something that wakes up when the darkness is deepest. And when it wakes, it brings its own light. If you've served in the Arctic or any place remote enough that the world forgets you exist, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen things, felt things, and maybe you've learned to keep quiet about them, but the stories persist, they leak out, they find their way to people like me who collect them, who try to make sense of patterns that refuse to resolve. Hit that subscribe button if you want more, because we're not done with the poles, not by a long shot. Next time we're heading south, to Antarctica, to a place called Vostok Station, where in 1982, a Soviet drilling team broke through to something they were never supposed to find. And the drilling, it stopped, not because they wanted it to, but because whatever was down there started drilling back. Drop a comment if you've experienced anything like this. If you've been stationed somewhere so remote that reality starts to bend. We read them all, and sometimes your story becomes the next episode. The Arctic night is long, but it's not empty. And the things that live there, they're waiting. They've been waiting for a very long time.